The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
Okay, comparison is the thief of joy, is Boeser Reinhart, and are we the Buffalo Sabres, or are we the Abbotsford Canucks? Okay, let's do this. Locked on Canucks.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, co-host of Locked On Canucks, and also a Canucks writer currently with Daily Hive Vancouver. Before we dive into the show, we got to thank you for tuning in to Locked On Canucks, because it is your Canucks, both Vancouver and Abbotsford, baby, every damn day. So if you like what we're doing, again, share this podcast with your friends, okay? Help us spread the word. On today's episode, let's talk about Brock Boeser, the comparison to Sam Reinhart, and why Brock Boeser could still end up back with the Vancouver Canucks. I will also get into the Abbotsford Canucks making the Calder Cup Finals for the first time in franchise history. Before we do all that, let me introduce my co-host. He's now getting the Johnny Canuck tattoo, Kyle Ballin. What's going on, brother?
Damn, that'd be sick, yo. You never know. Yo, maybe I'll have the Johnny Canuck beard soon too, man. You never know. That's what melatonin does, right? It increases the growth of your beard, right? Anyways, Callum, man. Callum Sandu saying the Brown brothers from Surrey are ripping it up, right? Arshdeep Jajjar scoring big goals in the AHL. Yeah, put an Abbotsford on the map. And again, the Surrey thing. And again, it's Callum Sandu, right? I know on the screen it says Callum McKenzie, but let's be real. Callum Sandu, a man of 2025, he took his wife's last name. You see that? That's evolution, Trevor. And speaking of evolution, man, I'm telling you, man, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, and maybe we did this last year too for a little bit. I was looking through Sam Reinhart's history in the NHL. And, I've been watching more hockey, right? Trevor put me to boot camp, right? Told me if you don't watch more hockey, I'm quitting. I'm like, yo, I like our friendship. So I'm here watching more hockey. I'm watching more Sam Reinhart. And I'm like, damn, if Brock Boeser plays on a good team, he's going to turn into Sam Reinhart.
No, I don't think so, man. I think that's asking a lot of Brock Boeser, because, I think Dan Jardine brings up in the comments. I think there's a couple things that Sam Reinhart has that Boeser doesn't have. And let's shout out Dan Jardine first and foremost, saying I don't think Boeser has the complete game that Reinhart does.
I don't know.
He's never going to be a top 3 Selke finalist. Look, Brock Boeser, in terms of the defensive metrics, they're not good. Now, it's worth noting, especially last season, that he plays against tough competition. And look, we talked about in Vancouver, it's not like he's a bad defensive player, but he's very rarely is the guy getting the puck out of his own zone, right? Most of his damage is done in the offensive zone. Like, I don't think he's a defensive liability, but he's not Sam Reinhart level good at playing defense. He's also slower than Sam Reinhart. And, oh, yeah, by the way, Sam Reinhart can also play center as well and can also kill penalties. So Sam Reinhart has a lot more utility to his game than Brock Boeser does. And, Kyle, I think that's, a typical Vancouver Canucks fear. Like, if we are the Buffalo Sabres, and you're right, Brock Boeser does go on to become Sam Reinhart and scores 50 goals and tears it up. But I think environment is important to Sam Reinhart's game too. So maybe you can make that case that Brock Boeser goes to the right scenario.
It is. It's inflated. It's inflated. He's learning a lot from like Barkov, Don't those guys play a lot together? They do.
Yeah, they play a ton together. I also think the other thing we're noting here too, though, Sam Reinhart went to Florida at the age of like 24, 25. Boeser's already 28, can be 29.
Yeah. I know. But I feel like they're a plug-in. Here's the thing, Trevor. I had a bit of a realization, and a part of me thinks it's gonna be true. The Florida Panthers are gonna sign Brock Boeser. They're gonna sign him. Like, if you put him in the right place, you can get the most out of him. And I'm not even just talking about the goal scoring. I know Trevor Beggs just poo-pooed, and Dan Jardine all over Boeser's defensive game. Yo, last year when Boeser was at his best, that was the best Brock Boeser's ever looked. Okay, and he wasn't as electrifying as he was in his rookie year, going coast to coast and whatnot. But last year, Brock Boeser, that was elite, in my opinion, okay? A great winger, a defensive force. I would use the word force, straight up. Last year, he would just win in every board battle. He was ignited. Like, he has that hockey sense. The effort was there. Again, a cerebral guy. He was able to put all the pieces together, and he looked, again, really, really good. He looked to me like Sam Reinhart. Now, Sam Reinhart, a Selke finalist, right, this year. But again, he's playing with Barkov. You know, the trickle-down effect. He's in a good culture and a good system. You just mentioned it. Reinhardt's been there for like 4 or 5 years. You know, he's 29 right now. But I just look at Brock and I'm like, yo, he has the tools to be a strong player. Emphasis on the strong. Like, this guy's a girthy guy, a wide guy. You know what I'm saying? And again, he has the hockey sense. Doesn't have the speed. I don't know how much faster Sam Reinhart is than Brock Boeser. Like, Sam Reinhart doesn't have 90 speed, in my opinion, based on the games I've watched. I don't know. Straight up, he doesn't. But he's, again, reminding me of Brock and vice versa. And it leads me to this, Trevor, because we're getting closer and closer to it happening, right? We didn't get anything for Brock, and we were mad about that, right? And we've only been really mad at it because he may be gone, like legitimately gone. And I've been connecting the two together, and I'm like, yo, maybe I can sleep better at night if we sign Brock. Because when I watch guys on Florida play and see how they play in the playoffs and remind myself of what Brock did in last year's playoff, I'm like, yo, there's a strong hockey player there. Now, do you want to overpay for a guy like that? No, but are the Canucks desperate for strong hockey players? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, I do think there's a path for the Canucks to re-sign Brock Boeser, and I'll make the argument for it now because we're on the topic of it. Brock Boeser might not get what we all think he's going to get in free agency, and
Whoa.
you know the
Sources.
Well, I mean, I think Don from The Athletic did an interesting deep dive on it, just looking at Boeser's market value based on the fancy stats. And look, I would say that, you know, I'll wager that some team is probably going to pay Brock Boeser a boatload of money, the money that the Canucks didn't want to pay him. But I also think teams have gotten smarter in free agency now. With the cap going up this year, that may change. But I think there's a world where Brock Boeser maybe doesn't get in free agency what he thinks he's going to get. Maybe Alvin again was right all along about, you know, the offers for Brock Boeser. Like, you wouldn't believe what I got. We were all poo-pooing on it at the time, and I still believe that, you know, he probably should have gotten something for Brock. They're probably better than maybe what he was alluding to. But I mean, at the end of the day, Brock Boeser, as much as we want to pump him up in this market, and he's been kind of a 30-goal, 65-point guy on average, you know, he's missed a lot of time. He's been up and down throughout his career. Our team's really going to want to make him like their second, third highest paid forward on the team. I don't know. I think there is a chance that perhaps Brock Boeser doesn't get that 8.5, you know, 7 times 8.5 deal in free agency, which I think would be an overpayment. And maybe if the Canucks offer is one of the better ones, maybe he comes back to the city that he's known his whole career. I don't think it's the most likely scenario, but I do think maybe it's more likely than what we've been believing, especially over the past couple of months, that Brock Boeser could come back to that. Because, again, the Canucks need offense. The options aren't really out there in free agency, and teams might not want to overpay for Brock Boeser and give him like 7 times 8.5.
Yeah. I think a lot of teams don't want to give him 8.5, but I think some people will, right? And let's be real, if Jake DeBrusk gets 7 years, you know Brock Boeser's getting 7 years on the open market, right?
But 7 times 5.5 is a lot different than 7 times 8.5.
No, 100. I don't think he's getting 7 times 8.5. But like teams are going to come at him for like at 7 years, 7.5. Like he's going to get a lot of money, guaranteed. No matter what, teams will be willing to go to that 7.5 range, 1,000,000%. I still feel as if there's going to be 3 or 4 teams wanting to give him 8, just because 8.5 is a little scary. But there's going to be a market there, and I'm not. It's not as if I'm on the fence, but I'm in both places where I'm ready to move on just to see where there's something new. But again, when I'm doing the research, and maybe this is me being pessimistic and me being an asshole and just looking at what's out there and looking at what we have available to trade. Again, it's a blessing that Shelov's has upped his value that much, because like Canucks are going to have to make moves to replace Brock Boeser. And what if they can't make that move? And then we have to go back to them not getting anything for this UFA. And it's like, oh, if we lose a player like that for nothing, it's like, oh, we ever going to get out of I'm getting scared. And right now, that's leading me to view him still as an asset while he's still under control with the Canucks to some extent. And like, yo, do we have to give this guy 8 years at 7.5? Like, is it 8 years? Like, is it like 8 years at $7 million? right? To get that, like if Tampa's doing that with Yanni Gord to an extent, like do the Canucks do that with Brock? Right?
I don't think that's number.
Would you be mad? 8 years, $7 million per.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd be mad. I wouldn't love it though. I wouldn't love it.
How do you replace Brock if they lose Brock? Because don't you need a second line center too? And
Yeah, I mean, I think they pretty much got to do it on the trade market. I mean, yeah. Here's the thing, Kyle. I mean, if it was $7 million a year by 8 years, $56 million overall. I don't love it. I see the rationale because of next year mattering so much for the Vancouver Canucks, right? But I do feel like if you give him that deal, you're likely gonna regret the last 4 years of that contract, right? Like Brock Boeser will be 29 going into next season. I mean, you want to look at some of the comparables that the Athletic did for his top player comps, right? At the same age, there was Stephen Weiss, who fell off a cliff, 2 years into that deal. Derek Brassard, Adam Henrique, who's been serviceable. Brad Richards, interestingly enough, who did have a surge and was worth the money. Bobby Ryan, Milan Mahalik, Artem Anisimov.
What a list.
There are a lot of players in there that, fell off pretty fast in their early 30s. And look, I mean, in the Athletic article, they did say there were scenarios and comparables like Phil Castle, Jason Pominville, Jordan Everly, David Perron, Brad Richards, like I mentioned, who did go on surges after the age of 28 and end up living up to their deals. But most of the guys, I mean, the number the Athletic threw out is there's about 174 comparables for Brock Boeser and about a 1 in 6 chance of him being, full value on that contract.
Yeah. Again,
so let's leave it up to the commenters. Would you guys be comfortable signing Boeser at, let's say, it's $7 million over 8 years? Is that something that you're happy with as a Canuck fan? Let's talk a bit more about Brock Boeser on the other side. We'll also talk, of course, about the Abbotsford Canucks as well. Going all the way, baby. Doing it for the West Coast. You're listening to Locked On Canucks. We'll be back on the other side, baby. Before we get back to the show, let's shout out our friends over at Monarch Money. Do you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO, baby, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money, it isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building your wealth. And Monarch Money, man, they're improving my lovemaking abilities. I can last about 25 seconds longer because of Monarch Money.
Stress slows you down. Let me tell you something, brother. Stress. No, it's interesting how it slows you up, it slows you down, but it also speeds you up to making irrational and quick moves. And trust Trevor, hey man, off the record conversation. Okay, come on, keep it going.
Well, there you go. With Monarch Money, they are easing my stress, okay? Because managing money with your partner is now smoother than ever on Monarch Money. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. And let the love making begin, baby.
People, we back doing this, and that's talking about your Vancouver Canucks. And man, oh man, Trevor, hockey, man, hockey is something else. And even though the Vancouver Canucks aren't playing, like I feel as if we're still connected to everything that's going on, whether it be the Stanley Cup Finals or more notably the AHL Finals. Speaking of which, we got to run. I forgot what we called this segment. Okay, swimming in the ocean. Okay, this is the part of the show where we, scour the internet, find, I don't even know what scour means. I just stole that from another podcast. We just find the other Canucks fans using the internet to do what they do. And Trevor, man, this was Scott Road. Not after Abbotsford made it to the Calder Cup final. because again, two Surrey boys did their thing, but this was Scott Road after Florida won Game 2 in overtime against the Oilers, man. So we got to celebrate this on Friday. We got to celebrate that on Friday or whatever the day was, and then yesterday Abbotsford did their thing, and I'm gonna let you do most of the talking because you're connected to this. I don't. People have heard me on the show. I'm not gonna lie to the people. I'm not watching the AHL. I'm balding. I got a girlfriend. 5 years from now, we want to get married. I got things to do. Okay, I got sorry. So Trevor, take it away. The AHL report.
The AHL report, and man, oh man, the Abbotsford Canucks, they did it, baby. They win Game 6. Honestly, they absolutely took over this game in the latter half. I mean, going into the second period and in the third period, ended up shooting Texas 17-4. Part of that was game script, right? I mean, Texas takes a 2-0 lead. Then Archie Baines got on the board first, cutting the lead to 2-1. And then the third period, the Abby Canucks just took over. Jujar Khaira ties it up. Abbotsford kept pouring it on. Max Sasson with the tip in front to make it 3-2. Archie Baines getting the empty net goal to seal the deal. And man, oh man, I'm incredibly happy for Archie Baines because I don't want to say he's been bad in these playoffs. Like, he's still been making plays out there. He's had some dangles, but for him to finally get on the score sheet and honestly just look impactful throughout the entire game. I don't want to say he's a guy that's become forgotten about because he's a Surrey boy, man. He's a BC bud.
No way.
We want Archie Baines to do well, but I honestly thought he was one of the best players for the Vancouver Canucks in this series. And again, nice for him to get rewarded with a couple of goals as well.
100%. Trevor, to cut you off there, the Baines report, Surrey report. I look at. It's interesting. You just went down all those players' names, and I didn't hear. Did I hear Lecker-Mackey again? I'm zoning out. It's AHL talk. I didn't. Okay, so
yeah.
There's some people out there because Lecker-Mackey, who had a really good regular season, right? Straight up, he was doing some beautiful things out there, and he got hurt, but he still kept doing some beautiful things. I actually thought at times he was really good for the Vancouver Canucks too, but Rick Tocchet just didn't play him enough, right? For real, there's moments there didn't play him enough. Also, maybe Rick Tocchet was just sap the creativity out of that Lecker-Mackey too, and I'm only bringing him up because I feel as if Archie Baines this time around, for whatever reason, when he got sent back down to the AHL prior to, the last couple of games, literally, he took a quote-unquote step back. And I feel as if a lot of people have been saying that because maybe, his numbers were a little different or just, he kind of just wasn't, it was more Sasson. It was more even at other guys, whatever. All in all, could he have been a guy that got some of that creativity sapped out of him by Rick Tocchet? Because I think when he's at his best, he's doing things. He's doing things. And whether he had similar numbers this year or whatnot, I feel as if offensively he didn't take the next step up. And there was some energy. And then you saw the slump in the playoffs where it's what is Archie Baines?
Yeah, well, it's interesting to bring that up. So, I mean, look, in terms of the creativity being sucked out of Lecker-Mackey's game, I mean, Rick Tocchet did say in press conferences that he wanted him to shoot. Now, the other thing, too, is that Manny Malhotra and Rick Tocchet, they coach pretty similar styles to both levels, right? So I think it was more an adjustment to the next level for Lecker-Mackey. And as much as I know Tocchet's gone, we want to poo-poo all over him.
Of course. He's gone. He quit.
He quit.
Yeah, thank you.
But he also played Lecker-Mackey with Miller for a good chunk. Now, there was a time where I think he was playing with Bluger. Yeah. And I can't remember which other guy they were playing with, and that didn't make a lot of sense. But I want to say for most of the time he was up here, he got a chance to play with JT Miller. So, yeah, I don't know if Tocchet sucked the creativity out of him. I just think Lecker-Mackey had a hard time getting to the front of the net, which is something that was an adjustment for him at the SHL level. He figured it out. It was a pretty quick adjustment for him at the AHL level, but he figured it out, started scoring some goals from in front of the net. He just couldn't figure that out at the NHL level last season. So, with Lecker-Mackey right now, I heard some reports that he might be injured. Obviously, you had dental surgery, but it looks like there was reports that he was a healthy scratch as well. So, but yeah, Lecker-Mackey and Atu Ratu, who is actually hurt, both guys that have not played for the Abbotsford Canucks in a couple of games, and they're still doing it down there without these guys. And
yeah,
I will say overall though,
I feel like it was a healthy scratch. I feel like that dental stuff, unless the AHL is like that, where you can't. Just because you're an AHL player, we're not going to give you an early dentist appointment. But I'm pretty sure that teeth work was done earlier in the season. I think he's just been a healthy scratch. I think he just it's a longer season for him and there's a lot of adjusting and whatnot. And again, just seeing how far Abbotsford got in the playoffs without him, it's not scaring me. It didn't scare me. This guy's first year in North America. It just tells you a lot. And again, Trevor, like just to touch on the Baines thing again, answer that, right? Because I feel as if the Canucks got this far in Abbotsford without Baines stepping up offensively in recent history. You know, like I haven't watched the games. Maybe he's been good defensively and he's been an impact player in other ways, but like a total team effort, man.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the one really nice thing to see about Abbotsford as the playoffs have gone on is, early on it was like Sammy Blais and Jujhar Khaira stepping up, right? Some of the veterans, Christian Wolanin as well. I think as the playoffs have progressed, you've seen the younger guys step up a bit more. I mean, of course, Mancini's been noticeable throughout, but Kirill Kudryavtsev, like his game's just gotten better and better here throughout the playoffs to the point where I'm like, damn, is this guy going to be an NHLer sooner rather than later? Like he's just such a smart, cerebral player out there. I know he's a little undersized at 5'11", but I mean, he looks like to me like an NHL player in the not too distant future. Of course, Max Hassan has stepped up with some big goals as well. So a lot of really positive signs with the young guys down at Abbotsford right now. And let's go all the way, baby. I'm going to be there for at least one Calder Cup game in the finals there in Abbotsford, cheering on the boys, maybe covering the game here for Locked On and Daily Hive, but yeah, just really excited to see what this team can do. And of course, all led by Artur Sheilov, who's just been an absolute stud throughout this entire postseason.
Yeah, okay, and let's just let's just go there, okay? Like Sheilov's and that's it. That's the kicker, this is where I come in and talk all my AHL smack, okay? In reality, like, why do I care about? Don't take this the wrong way, okay, Andrew? I know you're going to all the games and your shoulder. This guy might have shoulder surgery, okay? Like look at Andrew saying my shoulder hurts from all the towel waving I did last night. AKA I'm getting shoulder surgery and I might lose my arm. Okay. Because Abbotsford's passionate. They're doing their thing. Like I'm happy for the community because Abby, like that's a sports town, right? Shout out to Mapletron, right? Straight up. Chase Claypool. Like there's just athleticism there. Have you ever been in high school there? Way back in the day? Like it's just different there. And I love when obviously I love when the neighborhood is winning, but I feel as if there's going to be a different energy specifically in Abbotsford in the next couple of weeks. Not just online. Like this AHL thing, I don't know how much it's gonna pour over Vancouver. I don't think it is. There's more Edmonton Oilers fans in Vancouver than Abbotsford Canucks fans. I don't know. That's why I don't know. I don't know about that, but Abbotsford's going to feel different. And congratulations. That all being said, congratulations to the Vancouver Canucks for acquiring a new prospect because Artur Sheilov's now it's legit. It's legit. No longer, how we said we need to get a new winger and a new center? Like the top six, we need a top six center and a top six winger. How many first round picks do the Canucks have? You know what I'm saying? Like, how is that even possible? That can't get done. Hey, maybe it's more possible because Sheilov's is a top prospect. I said it.
100%, yeah.
If we throw Lecker Mackey in a trade or we throw Willander in a trade in a first, or you know how like those packages get made up? A legitimate package is Sheilov's in a first.
Yeah. Yeah, and we talked about it. Shout out to the everydayers. They know that. And go check out our episode from about a week ago talking about the Canucks finding the next Sam Reinhart. The Sam Reinhart trade, for those who missed it, was Devin Levi, a prospect goaltender, and a first-round pick. And we dropped some names on that episodes of guys who could be the next Sam Reinhart and guys the Canucks should target. But make no mistake about it, especially if Abbotsford goes on to win the Calder Cup, because right now Sheilov's would be the MVP. If he gets one more shutout, he'd tie the AHL record set by former Canuck Mika Norinen for most shutouts in an AHL postseason. So he's had a hell of a run there, man. So again, hopefully Abbotsford can pull it off, and we'll see what happens with Sheilov's and the Canucks goaltending. Okay, let's wrap up the show on the other side.
Now you get me excited, bro. Now it's like, I gotta watch the Calder Cup final because let's say the Canucks win 4 games, or let's say they lose in 7 or whatever it is, but Sheilov's looks magnificent. Bro, the hockey world is going to be talking about that.
Yeah, and it's not the first time he would have done it, right?
Exactly.
He did it for Latvia. He did it for the Canucks last year. He's got the track record, baby. Let's go. And let's go to the other side here on Locked On Canucks.
We back. We doing this, and that's talking about your Canucks. My name's Kyle Bauman. That right there is Trevor Beggs. We're going to update the Substack later today. Link in the bio, okay? Read our group chats. It's a good time. Join the Discord as well. Link in the bio to that as well. If you're new here, then you don't know that is actually the best place to talk about the Canucks while on the toilet. One love to the community. One love to you and you and you and you. Speaking of which, let's get to some comments. Wow, look at this. Hangia is saying, I'd rather see them trade Demko than Shelovs. We had this talk a couple weeks ago. And how about this? Or trade Lankinen. And Trevor, this is going to happen more and more. I'm telling you, this is going to happen more and more. And you know who else has good cachet around the league? Someone who represented Finland a couple months ago. I feel as if NHL scouts, if they made phone calls to like real goalie nerds, they would vouch for Kevin Lankinen too, right? They would. Prior to even him being a number one this season, he had all the fancy stats that told everyone that he was going to be a legitimate goaltender. There's going to be noise around that name too, and the Canucks could get value there. So we could still have Demko and Shelovs come October. And to me, replacing Boeser and getting a number one center also is like, that's like mission impossible. And you really got to make some remarkable things happen, and the extraordinary has to happen. And trading Lankinen to me is on the table.
Yeah, and Kyle, I think we'll talk about it later this week, but Kevin Lankinen is one of 4 Canucks with a no-move clause kicking in on July 1st. And it's fair to wonder with any of those guys whether they're going to move them or not. And I think when you first said that, I was like, I don't think there's any chance to move Kevin Lankinen. And I still think he's the least likely of the 3 to be moved. But that being said, I mean, look, it's possible. I think the Canucks are going to consider all their options here because they have to. Look what this team is at. Look how much next season matters. Keep it Quinn Hughes in Vancouver, getting a team back into Stanley Cup contention. I mean, I think all 3 of those guys, you got to consider trading them. Now, Kyle, maybe I'll phrase it this way to you before we get to another comment. Rank them in terms of most to least trade value between Lankinen and Demko and Shelovs, because I think that's a tough one. I think it depends on the individual team, but give me your thoughts. Like, who is the most valuable to least valuable trade chip among the Canucks 3 goaltenders?
I think it goes Demko, Shelovs, Lankinen. And Andrew knows what I'm talking about. Andrew is saying goalies win cups, and Shelovs has been lights out. Trevor touched on it before the break. We touched on it a couple weeks ago. We're going to keep saying it because we watched too many sports in our lives. Me and Trevor are old. We've watched so many games in our lives. We've watched a lot of playoff action, even though our favorite teams sometimes don't make the playoffs and aren't really good and get eliminated early. We still watch these sports. And when somebody is clutch in the big time moments, and they've done so 3 times now in a span of 23 months, you have to take notice of that. So Shelovs, good for Latvia, helps them win a medal at the World Hockey Championships. Shelovs, 3rd string goaltender, comes out of nowhere in the playoffs, and look at the film. I know he let in goals from the outside and whatnot, and the blah, blah, blah. Bro, he was clutch. He was look at what he did in Game 6 against Nashville too. Like, he was clutch. Look at what he did in the first period against Edmonton in Game 7, right when everyone was nervous. He wasn't nervous. Yeah, he let in that Cody Ceci goal, but whatever. He's good. He's good. He got the Leon Draisaitl said what allowed the Oilers to take the next step. I'm paraphrasing just a bit. What allowed them to take the next step in their journey, he just said this a couple days ago, was that 7-game series against Vancouver. Right? He said that took years off their lives. That's what it felt like. It just felt like that series took years to finish. How many times did Leon Draisaitl get robbed by Archer Shelovs? And the goalposts? But whatever. Shelovs made life miserable for the Oilers for a bit. And now Shelovs doing this with Abbotsford in the clutch situation after having a nightmare NHL season. Right? And this guy's a young goalie. And he bounced back like this ASAP. He didn't need a summer like Pettersson. He didn't need to go back to the gym. He didn't need to get his mind right. He just played hockey and have fun, and now he's clutch again for Abbotsford in the AHL playoffs. This guy's legit. And he's making this organization think once again.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great point. And look, actually, I talked to a goalie on the weekend. He's drafted by the San Jose Sharks, and I asked him, like, what's it's kind of a dumb question maybe, well, like, what's the most difficult part about being a goaltender? And he talked about tracking, right? Like, you got to track the play. You got to track what the players are doing around you. And often you got to track the puck through like 7-8 bodies on the ice, right? Like, that is a pretty tough thing to do. And the first thing I thought of when the guy said it was Archer Shelovs. Because again, we talked about like, he doesn't do a great job of tracking through traffic. that is pretty hard. That's pretty tough to do, especially at the NHL level, right? And look, he's really improved on his game. And Andrew's right in his comment talking about the goals that went against him against Texas. It was a lot of cross ice on the power play, cross ice on a odd man rush. I mean, it was Shilovs wasn't really letting in bad goals. I think he's actually gotten better as the postseason's gone on. He had a couple softer goals in the earlier rounds of the playoffs. But he's really just gotten better and better each game. And he had to be good against Texas because honestly, Magnus Hellberg over the past couple of games for the Texas Stars was really good himself. So competition was strong. And look, Artur Shilovs, he could still be the future of the Vancouver Canucks crease here. So Kyle, I would tend to agree with you. I think it's team dependent, but when you rank guys in terms of most to least valuable, I think it probably goes Demko, then Shilovs, then Lankinen, because Lankinen is the most steady of the three. But I think it's, you know what you're going to get. And I don't think there's a ton of value there with a guy on a 5-year deal making $4.5 million per season. Whereas there could be value with Demko or Shilovs based on their potential and their contract status.
So you asked that question about their value. The way I took it was like how I value them, as opposed to how the league would value them. I think there's a lot of value. I like to put Lankinen third on that list is not to say he's not valuable across the league. And, you know, like there's trade value there. Just the Canucks are in an interesting spot where Demko, who's hurt a lot, also just has this cachet, right? Now Shilov's doing this thing as a young goalie again in clutch moments. And they have Kevin Lankinen, who proved that he's a really good goalie, right? Like if you play him like the right amount of games and not overwork him, like he's a good goalie. He can get it done. Like, how much better would Lankinen look if the Canucks were actually a team? Like, in front of him, in that locker room, too? Like, luckily, he's the goalie. He could just play by himself, like, and like, just focus on his game. And he had to, keep the team in it for so many times early on. Like, it was Quinn Hughes and Kevin Lankinen doing all the work. So, what does Kevin Lankinen look like if his team was good this year? He'd look like a steal at 4.5 or whatever we're paying him. All in all, though, man, before we go, man, I'm getting passionate about this because I'm just looking for solutions. And now the more and more we talk about this, I'm like, damn, a goalie trade is going to help shape the Vancouver Canucks this season. It really is. And if there's one team that shouldn't be going into the season with $10 million in between their pipes, if I said that the right way, but if there's one team that shouldn't have $10 million tied up to goaltending next season, in a season where they got to save Quinn Hughes' relationship with the city and the team, it's like next season, right? The Canucks should not be that team, for real. Anyways, let's get back to the internet, okay? Trevor, just touch on what I got to show you. Give the people the message, because I'm tired of talking about it. We back swimming in the ocean. I got to play this dumb little internet video I made yesterday because I'm getting annoyed, you know? It is what it is. Yo, Vancouver, our beloved Cactus Club is expanding into Florida. Yet some of y'all fake-ass Vancouver people wanna cheer for the Oilers instead of, oh, Florida, our home. How are we gonna stand for anything, Vancouver? This is how we move. Vancouver is really celebrating Edmonton and their success when Leon Draisaitl of the Oilers said, Vancouver's their biggest rival. At least we got loyalty at Cactus Club. Vancouver Canucks fans really cheering for the Oilers when oil kills orca whales. Anyways, best of luck to Vancouver's Cactus Club when they open in Florida. Canucks fans just cheering on the Oilers and Corey Perry when Corey Perry almost eliminated Quinn Hughes from this earth and destroyed his whole career. He almost paralyzed. If you see a Canucks fan cheering for the Oilers, just shake your head. I was gonna say take their jersey off, but don't get physical. Just shake your head.
Yeah, I think there's two truths about this, Kyle. I'm gonna go all the way back to 2011 on this. I truly believe that true diehard Canuck fans didn't ride in 2011, and true diehard Canuck fans are not cheering for the Oilers to win the Stanley Cup in 2025. I mean, look, you said it in that clip, right? Leon Draisaitl talked about the Canucks be one of their biggest rivals, right? And Edmonton fans might want to go, oh, yeah, we don't care about Vancouver Canucks fans and blah, blah, blah. They might feel differently if Vancouver ended up beating them a Game 7 with a third-string goalie last year. But, yeah, come on. If you're a Canucks fan, stop cheering for the Edmonton Oilers. I'll say every goddamn episode if we have to. We the South, baby. And that was another episode of Locked On Canucks. I'm Trevor Beggs. That guy's Kyle Bowden. If you like what we're doing, go share the podcast with one of your homies. Spread the word. And remember, we the South.
Your Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.